And we're back. We're in chapter 1. Right now, we're going to be going over the plan. And I'll go ahead and just jump right in. So there are 4 steps to the FI plan. The first step is personal mindset, and the second is personal finance. The third and fourth steps are entrepreneurship and higher risk, higher return investing. It is imperative to start with step 1, then step 2, and then step 3, and finally step 4. Step 1 and 2 are foundational. You must get the foundation right to have the highest probability of success with the third and fourth steps, which I call accelerators. All right. And we're in that first part of the book, the mindset. And then once we're done with that section, we'll move into the second part, which is personal finance. Okay, and this is the foundational stuff that you have to get right. You don't have to, as I talk about this in just a second, you don't have to go on to entrepreneurship or higher risk, higher return investing, but we have to get the mindset and the personal finance right. Okay, so to achieve FI, you only need to master the first and second steps. As I just said, the accelerators potentially provide opportunities to obtain FI sooner. However, the accelerators are riskier and uncertain. There's no guarantee that they will work. For that reason, you must never stop executing steps 1 and 2. Right? So entrepreneurship, there's no guarantee that you'll be a successful entrepreneur even if you go out and try to start a business. However, if you're interested, it could be helpful. Same thing with higher risk, higher return investing. There might be some strategies out there up and above the basic strategy that I explain in this book that might be beneficial, but there's no guarantee. And so we want to make sure we get that base right. If you decide to pursue steps 3 and 4, they must be done simultaneously with steps 1 and 2. That means you can't stop doing steps 1 and 2. For example, if you embark on step 3, which is entrepreneurship, you will do steps 1, 2, and 3, right? Step 1 is your mindset. Step 2 is personal finance. You'll continue to do those forever. And then if you want to throw in the entrepreneurship, you can do that. If you implement step 4, you will do steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 simultaneously until you achieve FI. The accelerators never replace steps 1 and 2. They're only meant to speed up the FI process. Okay, and we'll talk about that. There's a chapter on accelerators that we'll go over later on. But that idea is paramount. And you don't go from step 1 mindset and step 2 personal finance and you jump over to higher risk, higher return investing. If you're going to go all the way to step 4, you need to go to step 3 entrepreneurship. And I'll explain more about that later on. So you want to keep that sequence fixed. But like I said, if you don't want to deal with entrepreneurship and you don't want to deal with higher risk, higher return investing, that's okay, right? The process will get you there to financial independence. It'll just take potentially more time. Okay, so what is financial independence? The first idea of FI, when planted in my mind, was described as having enough money to do what I wanted when I wanted. Now, this was back in my 20s when I had this idea. Adhering to this definition, it seemed as if the sky was the limit, right? An endless supply of money would be available for my every use. It was an exciting idea because it appealed to my greed, right? So I mean, we all have these feelings of maybe fear and greed and other things like that, and it appealed to my greed. The second definition of FI that I gravitated toward was having more passive income than personal expenses. This second definition was more realistic and concrete than the first. It described my needs and wants as personal expenses, and that a specific type of income, passive income, must be produced to equal or exceed my needs or wants. Okay. Finally, after realizing that money, right, is not happiness, and achieving FI without a life's purpose would be meaningless, I've adopted the following definition for FI for myself and this book. So here it is. Financial independence is having more passive income than personal expenses to achieve your life's purpose. What does that mean for you? Achieving financial independence is not enough because at the end of the journey, you will have enough passive income to cover your expenses, but to what end? Why? Why will it matter? Will you just sit in a room by yourself now that you have maybe don't have to work because you have enough money to pay for your bills? Will that truly make you happy, right? And I know that's rhetorical. I know that it won't make you happy. An inspiring and meaningful life, a life worth living, comes from engaging in your life's purpose. That is where your journey toward FI begins. Any action in the right direction is appropriate, but taking big action is more desirable. Financial independence starts with understanding your purpose, believing you can achieve financial independence, and then taking massive action toward it. So don't worry too much about where you are today. Instead, spend your energy working toward where you want to go over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. You cannot rewrite your past, but you can write your future. No matter where you are in life today, no matter where you are in life, today is the day to start working on your financial independence. It begins with belief, which opens up your mind to the necessary and unique creative thinking skills needed to achieve your personal FI. While there are guiding principles that everyone needs to achieve FI, every individual or family will have their unique preferences, choices, financial independence number, lifestyle requirements, etc. Use creative thinking to recognize your life. Use creative thinking to reorganize your life to achieve your financial independence. Release your creativity by being receptive to ideas, experiencing good things, and constantly looking for ways to improve. All right, so here's a concept that I think is helpful. It was helpful for me, and I know it'll be helpful for you. Okay, the financial independence duality mindset. So we all want financial independence immediately, right? That's maybe our greed or our fear, because we're fearful that we won't be able to provide or something like that. So we want it to happen immediately. That's natural. It's natural to feel that way. And what I'm saying here is, but the truth is that the time it will take to achieve FI will vary for all of us. Okay, we can't say for certain how many years it will take to achieve because multiple variables are at play. So I can't tell you, you can achieve financial independence in 5 years or 20 years. I can't put, for you personally, right? I can't put that number out there. That's up to you and what happens in life. Now, some of the things that you do will directly affect your financial independence, but there are some things that are out of your control. Okay, and you might say, hey, I'm going to do this in 10 years, but then it ends up taking 20. So how do you deal with that, right? You're setting a goal, and then you feel, you don't hit it in 10 years. You feel bad that, you tried really hard, but you had some things happen. Do you just give up? The answer is no, right? And we use this mindset in order to persevere and get through those difficulties when we don't maybe hit our financial independence when we want it. So here it says, okay, so therefore to prepare you for your FI journey, I must introduce the FI duality concept as a coping mechanism to balance optimism and realism. This general idea of balancing optimism and realism to increase persistence was first introduced to me by renowned business author Jim Collins. I've adapted it to apply to financial independence specifically. Okay. Thus, the FI duality mindset is having faith that you will achieve an abundant level of financial independence quickly and simultaneously understanding that you may achieve a sufficient level of financial independence slowly. As I said, there are two paths to financial independence. One is slow but has a high probability of success, while the other is quicker but has a high likelihood of failure. This duality or balanced perspective describes two opposing yet complementary elements. The duality concept emphasizes the importance of maintaining equilibrium between two contrasting viewpoints, which requires a person to believe one concept while simultaneously believing another. Because of the uncertainty involved in the time and level of financial independence, embracing the financial independence duality concept will increase your persistence. All right, that's what we want. Increase your persistence. Regardless of which one becomes your reality, you will achieve financial independence. Okay, so what I want to do is take a look at this figure right here, and I kind of explain it. And I'll read through it, or maybe I'll read through it first and then come back. But we'll just go that way. So I'll read through it and then come back, because this is a great figure, and maybe there's some changes I could make to it, but I hope this provides you some deeper understanding into this concept. So the figure illustrates the phi duality concept with two upward sloping lines, each representing a different reality. And you know what? I'm going to read from my book, so then we can just keep on the screen, just keep this up here. And so I can kind of point to and explain it as we read. So the two upward sloping lines, okay? So this is one upward sloping line. Here's the other upward sloping line. Okay, each representing a different reality. Now we could have a million of these dots are the end results, right? These two dots are the end results, but we could have a dot here, a dot down here, a dot over here. We could have, hundreds of potential outcomes, when we become financially independent. Okay, we don't know, but just for illustration purposes, we just put 2 on there. The one thing that I might change is I use the straight line here to just make it as simple as possible. But this straight line, or this basically from our starting point down here up to wherever we end, this could be kind of a zigzag or a twisted line, and it doesn't necessarily have to go in just a straight line, okay, as it's illustrated here in this picture. Okay, so a precise formula does not mathematically derive the figure. Instead, it is a visual to facilitate the realization that your phi reality is not fixed, but has multiple possible variations based on your decisions and other outside variables. While the slope and length of the line will vary for each individual, I show only 2 to provide a deeper understanding of this concept. Thus, the steeper line shows a person reaching a greater financial independence sooner, with a lower probability of success by applying the concepts of personal mindset, personal finance, entrepreneurship, and higher risk, higher return investing. In contrast, the flatter line, so that's this steeper line right here, right, shows that they're doing steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we have down here on the timeline, here's fast, so you can see they achieve that faster. But by doing steps 1 and 2, they were also able to achieve some level of financial independence, right? This is a greater level of financial independence. This is still financial independence, but with less money. They were still able to achieve financial independence, but it took them more time to do that. However, here you can see the probability, right? There's a higher probability that they would do it over a longer period of time using just steps 1 and 2, and a lower probability of this actually happening up here. So we're trying to kind of combine all of that, the time, the amount or abundant lifestyle that you can live once you've hit financial independence, with the probability of that all happening all in one picture to help you have a better idea of how this works. In contrast, the flatter line shows a person reaching a sufficient level of financial independence later, with a higher probability of success by applying only the concepts of personal mindset and personal finance. To further break down the illustration, the left vertical axis shows a sufficient level of financial independence at the middle of the line versus an abundant level of financial independence toward the top of the line. It demonstrates that there are many levels of financial independence. While we would all like to have a more abundant financial independence, achieving a sufficient level with less money is possible as well, right? So, like I said, the definition of financial independence to some degree, right? It was to have enough passive income to provide for your lifestyle or the expenses. Now, those expenses are your choice. You could achieve financial independence with less money as long as your lifestyle or expenses are lower, right? And so you could be, if you're happy with that at this sufficient level, you can achieve financial independence here, just like as illustrated in this individual's outcome. Now, if you want more money, right, you want to have, instead of just having maybe $100,000 or something like that to retire with, you want millions and millions on an annual basis, right? More abundant to do more, right? What is that going to do? That's possible. You'd still have be financially independent, but it's going to be less probable, right? Less probable that's probably going to happen. Okay, the horizontal axis represents time. The closer to the far left, over here, far left, of the line, the quicker financial independence is achieved, as represented by the time intervals fast and slow. Finally, the right vertical axis shows a descending probability, right? A descending probability. Descending probability of achieving financial independence, demonstrating a higher probability of accumulating a lower level of wealth and a lower probability of accumulating a higher level of wealth. Once again, this figure reiterates the unknowable future of which path your financial independence will ultimately take. It will only be after you achieve financial independence that the path will become obvious. Nevertheless, this phi duality concept encourages you to aim high and fast while simultaneously preparing you mentally for a longer journey that eventually ends at a sufficient level of financial independence. Okay, so this is, right, all of us would love this. We'd love to be in this upper left-hand quadrant, right, where we achieve financial independence quickly and we have an abundant amount of money accumulated right up here, right? This is the best place to be. Potentially, because the faster we get there, the longer we have to spend our lives working on our life's purpose, without having to worry about a lot of other things like trying to make a living and so forth. And so we would all probably want to be up in this quadrant most of the time. However, down in this quadrant, it's slower, right? It's slower to get there, and it's less potential money, but it's still financial independence, and still there's it's still getting you to where you need to be to have the time and resources in order to achieve your life's purpose. Now, however, the probability, right? That's the big kicker right here, right? It's less likely that someone who will become a successful entrepreneur and do well with their higher risk, higher return investing. However, it's very probable and plausible that someone who just keeps at it, has the right mindset, is consistent, and continues with the basic investing concepts that I teach, will get there. It'll just take a little bit longer, but there is a higher probability that will come. And so once again, it's that financial independence duality concept that I like, knowing that we want to work as hard as we can, and we want to try to implement, gain as much knowledge as we can, implement other things to hopefully push us, right, in to achieve it faster and to achieve a more abundant lifestyle. But if that doesn't happen, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. You'll still get there. It'll take a little bit more time and effort, or maybe a lot more time and effort, but you'll get there, and you can still achieve financial independence at some point in your life. So we'll go ahead and pause there, and then continue, finish up chapter 1 in our next video. Thanks.